Hello, friends. Hosts Eric and Rachel here, hosts of Talking with Fat People, and the purveyors of information, entertainment, edutainment, entertation, education, and knowledge. Not to mention wisdom, sometimes a lack of wisdom, sometimes we provide frivolity. At other times, we provide the appropriate solemnity, depending on the context. All of those things and more are available to you here, free of charge, at Talking with Famous People. The best deal you'll ever get in your entire life on anything. But wait, Eric, surely this must cost thousands of dollars. No. No, friends, it should, but it doesn't. You're allowed to participate at zero cost to you directly. You may have to watch an advertisement that YouTube plays. You may choose to be a premium member, in which case you don't have to watch an advertisement. But the point is, here we are, sitting before you, saying, hello, greetings, and how do you do? Mrs. Mom, our thirst was well quenched. We went from a state of parchage to a state of quenchage. And the difference between the former and the latter comprised 2 large cooks.
It did.
Yeah. So that was pretty good. Made some shorts in Monrovia. Not the greatest shorts we ever made, but I felt the need to get a little bit of work done. Work. I mean, playing with dolls in the streets is not work. But regardless, from P to Q, right? You go from P to Q in life. That's how life works. But this stream is called What We Know, Who We Are, and Who We Are for a reason. Specifically, certain pieces of knowledge or information can dramatically impact one's perspective on things. So, a few days ago, everything was moving along as normal. Then my dad sits me down and surprises me with this very serious and well-articulated plan to move to Everett, Washington. And then the next morning he comes out, he's very chagrined, and he says, you know what, I made a mistake, the place in Everett is not what I thought it was, etc. So, after that, Rachel and I both felt this sense of now we feel like it's like it never really concretized that we wanted a change of pace or so we want we need to live on our own here is what we need to do, and that's conceivably something that can make happen. Something that could make happen with a job, for example, a regular full-time job. But the thing is, regardless of any of that stuff, the point is that the only difference between a few days ago and then earlier today or yesterday was that a few days ago this wasn't a possibility. A couple of days ago it was. Then the next day it was no longer going to happen. And both Rachel and I were feeling pretty mad about it. But the thing is, yesterday, or the day before, I guess, I sent my dad an email suggesting this place called Hoquiam, or Hoquiam, which is quite cheap, and compared to most of the state of Washington. It's near Aberdeen. So it's not the nicest part of Washington, perhaps, but I sent him an email saying, look, I found this place. It's called Hoquiam, and the median housing prices are are dramatically lower than a lot of these other places, and it seems to have what you're looking for, meet your criteria. So why don't you take a look at it? So he came and talked to me about it yesterday, and basically said, "Well, I found it very intriguing, but I don't, we're done with this moving idea. We're gonna." So Rachel and I we're feeling pretty mad in general about things, and yeah. Well, I get that, Oliver. Like,
Well, yeah, we're gonna definitely see, right?
well, anyway, so my dad comes back this afternoon, and he's like, I've been looking more into your suggestion, and we're, it's like he thinks that we should go visit and check it out. So the funny thing, Oliver Linehan, is I get that Hoquiam and Aberdeen aren't great places. I mean, they're kind of the wrong side of the tracks. It's where Kurt Cobain came from. However, the whole state is gentrifying. Like, it's a good place to get a house, really, because everywhere in Washington, median housing prices are outrageous. So, what that means is gentrification. And that's going to come to Hoquiam and Aberdeen as well, So, anyway, we'll be flying up there sometime relatively soon. And we're going to go check out that area. My dad found a nursing home that met his standards nearby. Well, this is the thing, Jeremiah Fix. Housing prices will probably drop depending on which state you're in, right? So one of the reasons why my dad wants to get out of California is he believes that California's problems are going to impact the housing market at some point, and this house is going to lose a lot of its value, and we might as well get out while it still retains all its value. I don't necessarily agree with that, but the thing about housing prices is that there's no sort of bubble going on right now. There's no inflated market where people are buying a bunch of homes for investments and that they can't really afford, etc. The reason houses are so expensive is because there's just a lot of people, and people want to live in places with sustainability. Like, California does have a serious water problem. I realized the place to buy near me made in the 1970s $2.4 million. Alright, so in Hoquiam, like the most expensive house in Hoquiam is like $350,000 or something, and there are some that are like under 200 grand. They're pretty tore up, But there are also houses available in Aberdeen, and they're a little bit more expensive, but it's affordable. So that's about what you expect from an area about 70 miles from Seattle. And in other words, it's too far to commute, but it's still within range of it, so that you get people who can't afford to live in Seattle. They move and say to themselves, okay, I'm going to take this really long commute or something. Well,
Is that true, Oliver Linehan, that a lot of Californians are going to like Aberdeen and Opium? Like,
probably not to those cities, but yeah, there are. I mean, people are going out of California right now, going to different places. My dad is primarily concerned about water availability and water resources, and so heading north makes sense if there's plenty. You know, Washington does have plenty of water. I mean, California's housing prices are. It depends entirely where you are as to whether they're expensive or not. But around here, they're quite expensive. Like this neighborhood houses start at about $1 million, and this is towards the bottom end of that range. But um, you know, the point is, there's specific care. For instance, this is one my dad chose rather than the one I had suggested, but that was just because I found a place in a housing market that matched, and he then found a different place near that same housing market. Pacific Care. Oh, trouble. So anyway, Rachel and I are both sort of reeling a bit. Yes, the latter one was this one. We're sort of reeling a bit because it's amazing how much what you know or what you think or what your map or your expectations are impacts you globally. You know, it's like it never was the case that anything was happening. It was always the case that it was just we were being talked to about it. And my dad even included Rachel in the discussion today, which is sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. You know, my dad, like I said before, he's like the cops. He likes to separate people into different rooms and meet with them individually. So. So you live in like San Jose, Eliana? Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, there are significant problems with the way urban centers, especially on the West Coast, deal with a variety of urban problems. But it's always been the case that large urban centers have had to deal with urban problems, and what's today's huge problem is tomorrow's solved and forgotten about problem often enough. You know, it used to be crime was a huge problem, but it's just been going down, 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 down year after year after year. What's the super summary of my abortion stance? Well, basically it's that abortion is a unique issue because women have a monopoly on observation that doesn't exist in any other issue. And people's understanding of the reality of a thing is contingent on their capacity to observe it to some extent. So the problem with dealing with abortion in the status quo, the way the courts have attempted to deal with it, is they've chosen not to engage it as a distinct, unique thing with its own set of arguments that that doesn't really, that just simply establish, like what they should have done, if they wanted to protect a woman's right to abortion for whatever reason, if they wanted to call it that, then they should have called it that. They should have said, the 10th Amendment includes but does not explicitly name, but we are here naming, a right to abortion. And then at that point it's a civil right that's established by the Supreme Court in a way that's defensible because that's what the 10th Amendment lets them do. But regardless, the point is that Roe v. Wade is not, it. The point is this: if you're a reasonable person, it doesn't matter which side of the abortion issue you're on, you should be in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade because The thing is, what pro-abortion people forget is that the worst thing that can possibly happen is for somebody to agree with you for the wrong reason. If you don't have the right reasoning, the battle's never going to end. Seattle just makes itself hostile to exist there, as it can. Anywhere nice is unaffordable for most right now. Yeah, it is true that there's a lot of inflation, there's a lot of cost of living things here in Los Angeles as well. So it's like, from a family estate perspective, my dad's thinking, we'll sell this, we'll get, like, basically housing for 3 out of it. We'll get the house for me and Rachel, we'll get a house or a condo or something for my dad, or he'll possibly even move into the same retirement community with my mom, I don't know. And then we'll get Delilah set up too. So, and then that way, there may even be some equity left after that. Who knows? But the point is, it makes sense from my dad's perspective because then, because it's getting everything set up for, he needs and wants and has certainly and always has had the following commitment from me, which is that Rachel and I'll be there in that community with my mom and my dad until they pass,
So, what areas do you like, Oliver? Like, personally, if you were to move somewhere, where would you move? Just curious. I like to hear about other places.
Hi, Alec. So, I think the point is that you as well found these succession of newses to be spiritually whiplashing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how much just something that isn't even for sure can change your attitude, perspective on things. Because we've been feeling like we've been waiting for something to happen for a while. And I don't think either of us really realized that we need to live on our own. It should be obvious, but we're not sensitive, so it doesn't occur to us.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And it's not like we don't have ample freedom/liberty here, but it just feels slightly oppressive all the time because we're here at my dad's house, and over time it kind of builds up, right? And it's not like that my dad's doing anything wrong at all. It's just not our house. It was your birthday today? Happy birthday,
Happy
Alec.
birthday.
Congratulations for staying alive this long. You did much better than people who did not stay alive that long. Well, I looked all around the state at housing prices and stuff, and it also has to be near a nursing home facility that has an Alzheimer's wing, which are less common than those that don't. So, but my dad already talked to the people at the specific care that he called them and talked to them and stuff, and discussed what the protocols would be to get mom transferred there and how much it would cost, etc. So,
yeah.
It seems like it's well on its way to happening at this point. And that's a weird, disruptive kind of thing for me, for Rachel, even though it's a happy thing. I think we both want to, at the very least, go on this trip and check it out. And if
Yes.
the thing is,
Let's see.
I don't really care if it's not a very good neighborhood or something because it's by the sea, it's by a river.
There are mountains too.
There are mountains and stuff nearby, and so it's a lot. There's a lot more. Like around here, if Rachel and I want to go anywhere not that's not filled with people, we have to drive quite some distance away. And I like getting out hiking in the wilderness and stuff, but I also don't like having to go on huge drives to get someplace worth hiking. So in that regard, I love to play outside in the woods and shit, or in the bushes or whatever. It's fantastic. It's near Olympic National Park.
That's great.
So for Rachel, of course, she's here in California, and coming here to California was, for her, something probably that didn't really register a lot because it's kind of an SI thing, but it involved her saying goodbye to her childhood home and where she grew up and where all of her experience was built in, right? So the same thing is true for me. And I remember no, it's not that one, that's this one. It's Pacific Care. Not Pacific Gardens. I don't know. I don't know exactly which one he talked to or whatever, but he told me the lady's name he talked to.
Yeah.
It was Lindsay, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm not sure where it is or what it is, but he found it, and it's in close proximity to Aberdeen/Oakland, but it's not the one I suggested.
He said that he and Jane were there in Long Beach. And they liked Long Beach, and Long Beach is very close to Hokkien.
Maybe it's in Long Beach, and I don't know. But
Yeah, it might be. It might be.
as long as it's within 20 or 30 miles of us, it's fine. It doesn't have to be like right next door,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, it wouldn't be in Portland, it would be in Washington. Although I do get that Aberdeen's down there fairly close to the Oregon-Washington border, So, Lady Lou lives in Portland, huh? So we could visit her easy, because if I'm reading the map, my map guess is right. It looks like Aberdeen is about the same distance from Portland as it is from Seattle. About 70 miles, probably. But I don't know that for sure. Anyway, one thing I feel for sure is that somewhere in the mix of all these happenings, Sasquatch has something to do with it. Because I know Sasquatch wants to meet me. He's going to want a Sasquatch, or several Sasquatches want to meet me. Because they appreciate my enthusiasm for them. But they're not willing to come down to the Southern California mountains, understandably. Rachel and I were noting today that there are very few trees for them to hide behind. Ever seen something that looked really cool but were disappointed with yourself because it's probably junk? No, I mean, the thing is, I'm perfectly comfortable with maps that have conditionalities built into it. Like, we're going to this place to look at it and check it out, and I'm aware of the fact that what we see is going to influence what I perceive about it.
Yeah. We don't know yet.
And what I do know is that I'm not happy with the way things are going around here in general. Like, I've lived in LA my whole life, and it feels like somehow a not a fully functioning city anymore. I don't know. Los Angeles feels like it's I mean, I get what Jeremiah is saying. It's like when I went away to college. I had a lot of I'm disliking the city. That has a lot to do with it. I don't like all the crowdedness and all the traffic and stuff. That's mostly it. Because it used to be the case that that here in Arcadia, there really, there wasn't very much traffic, and it was easy to get around mostly. And I was kind of this song I wrote a long time ago called "Virtue Doesn't Last Long in a State of Disaster," and it says about Los Angeles in the early '70s. It says the world was wide and empty then, but also rather boring. But that's how I felt back in the day. The world was wide and empty, and that so when we complained about traffic back then, there was some traffic problems, but they stemmed from like inadequate roadage to a certain extent, and too much centrality. You've got fleas all over you, mister. Yes, you do. You're a flea-bitten cur. I was thinking he wants to know, I'm pointing out my inner conflict. Here, back to you. It's not just you. All cities are losing function with economic stagnation and pointless social initiatives. Well, I mean, the only real social problem that cities are suffering from is homelessness, and I've addressed that already. It's an unavoidable consequence of a poor Supreme Court ruling, and I've presented a solution to it. There's not really any other social problems the cities are facing. It's like it used to be that crime was fairly high, and it just isn't anymore unless you're in San Francisco. San Francisco is the example of what Jeremiah Fix is lamenting. But most cities don't have all the problems that San Francisco has like that. The other cities have homelessness, but they don't have crime. Have you seen the stock market and all those cryptocurrencies? The world is turning to shambles. Well, I know the stock market's down. It's down about 20% since January or so. 25%, something like that. Somewhere in there. But the thing is, I'm accustomed to seeing, and over these many years that my family's been invested in the stock market, it's something I always hear about. Like, so my dad will tell me, market's down, or, well, the market's up, so. So it's like, these things have all happened with the stock market before, and I'm not particularly concerned about it not returning to its all-time high and surpassing it again. It's what the stock market does. No, I'm saying San Francisco is the exception. San Francisco is very much known for crime, and it's very much a dangerous place. But most cities can manage to both endure the homelessness and not see rising crime rates.
Mm-hmm. That's the truth.
So that's interesting. Anyway, as far as crypto goes, I'm not sure what's going on with the crypto markets right now, but they're extremely volatile. As with stocks, although we have a much shorter history to look at, the history of cryptocurrency has heretofore been filled with, is nothing but people screaming about how it's going to crash and lose all of its value, and this is the time that it's going to do that. And it's been nothing but that since the beginning of crypto, and it's never turned out to be the case. It's just another panic, another volatility thing. But we'll see. I mean, it's new enough that it's hard to say for sure what's going to happen with crypto. The thing I'm worried about more than anything else in terms of economics is really, Eliana Diaz, I've explained this before. I have videos on it. If you search my channel for homelessness, I give you what needs to happen because of a specific Supreme Court ruling. Is the federal government needs to provide all homeless service in a centralized location. Nobody should be forced to go there, but they'll be, to the extent that homeless services incentivize homeless people to go to that location, which is what's happening right now. Every city that is attempting to address homelessness is doing so under the terms of the Supreme Court ruling that says you cannot forcibly move somebody from a public space unless you have someplace for them to go. In other words, unless you provide housing for them. Now, this unreasonably and ridiculously is basically a federal mandate for major cities to build free housing for homeless people. And it's not a sustainable policy for any city because, of course, it incentivizes more homeless people to come to your city if you do that. So the solution then is what I colloquially call homeless town, namely a central location in the middle of the country in which all the money that all these municipalities are spending gets funneled into a central expenditure pot, or the federal government just pays for it or whatever. But the point is, if they're going to mandate that cities deal with homelessness like this, then they're going to have to take on some of the responsibility for solving the problem. In fact, they're going to have to take it all on. Otherwise, what they're insisting people do if they want to deal with homelessness at all is to spend taxpayer money incentivizing more homeless people to come to your city. And it's not a good strategy. It's gonna break every city in succession. So look, the reason we're having inflation is not because of an excess of currency or currency devaluation. It's because of rising real prices. So, like, food's way more expensive than it used to be. The thing about economies like ours is that it's a very mature economy, right? So you've got a lot of entrenched bullshit that limits the responsiveness of the markets. She was probably lying, Eliana Diaz. Makes you feel any better. Yes, that makes me feel a lot better. I feel so good to know that she was lying. You're welcome, Eliana. I help you by knowing when other people are lying. You want this? Or what are you looking for? Or that? So anyway, now we're in this state of tension, you might say, but it's a good kind of tension. Um, in that we know we're probably gonna end up. We're definitely going to go visit up there, and that we'll probably end up doing this because because it's my dad's plan basically, and you know he's very responsible like that. He plans for the rest of his life. So we're working on this thing here, trying to fix it a little bit. It was kind of got some of Rachel's vocals done too, but not that many of them. Let me see what's going on here. I'm gonna check the audio settings tonight. Alright. We've got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Through the undertown, Angeline in tow for a secret unattended show. Under blazing blue and tropical skies, Angeline is stuck with you. She can't stand other guys. Stay running till the chase is done. Hide your loot and your tracks. You may have been born a son of a gun, but I know you might one day make it back. Oh, did I leave the mic on the whole time? Was it ah, shit. Let me play it again. Through the undertown, Angeline in tow for a secret unattended show. Under blazing blue and tropical skies, Angeline is stuck with you. She can't stand other guys. Stay running till the chase is done. Hide your route and your tracks. You may have been born a son of a gun, but I know you might one day make it back. What? How is the mic on again? What's going on with that? How does the mic come back on like that? Oh, for fuck's sake. I don't know. Forget it. I don't know how the mic came back on. Whatever. Anyway.
Maybe it's the slab saying no.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine. I just closed this thing and yeah. Well, yeah, it's not a song yet, but it is. I'm very happy with the. Alright. Like, we didn't have any drums yet, right? So I'm just trying to nail it down piece by piece. And I guess I'm pleased with the approach I'm taking in working on it, which is smarter than I usually take. I got all the bass and guitar nice and cleaned up this morning. And then I got good clean vocals on mine. The thing is, once I get those sections all done, then I've been thinking about where the chorus should go and how it should go. Because that's really like a double verse, right? It's a 48-second long loop because it's at 80 BPM and it's 64 beats. So, it's a long loop. Anyway, I'm trying to get a feel for where the chorus is going to go. And that helps. I'm doing Aga Amin's chart tomorrow. You're going to do it. You're going to do it hard. You know, don't forget, whatever you do, listen, Mom, don't forget about the following things. Don't forget about your Capricorns, and don't forget about your Sagittariuses. Don't get them confused for each other. Don't go Capricornus, don't go Sagicorn, okay? Or just remember, Capra, corn, they both have the K sound in it, right? Sagittarius. One's an S and one's a T. That's the difference. Keep that in mind. Also, don't forget that Cancer in astrology doesn't refer to a growth in your body. Instead, it's about crabs. It seems odd to me as well. You gotta remember that when you're studying your astrologies. Okay. So, Rachel, thoughts about the world, life, everything?
Well, thoughts about the world, life, everything. I'm like nervous about moving. I don't know why. Like, why would I be nervous? I wasn't before. I don't know. I'm starting to not, like, take seriously astrology the way that I used to. And I definitely want to hear your thoughts on that.
I mean, the thing is about astrology, it provides so many different angles on a person based on their birth chart. In other words, your birth chart doesn't tell you you're a Taurus. It tells you a bunch of other stuff that I never really thought I didn't know existed really. Like, this is rising and that is sitting and the other thing is swimming and a third thing is, whatever. So it's got a lot of little things, right? And because all those little things then are converted into some kind of personality description, it's always going to be plausible for you to find the little thing in your birth chart that does match up with you and say, well, that's just the reason I don't seem like a whatever is that I'm more expressing my miggity rising in the house of my mya than my sun sign, for example. So the problem with astrology is basically that you can always find a way to justify the claim that you are explained by your birth chart, because everything is explained by your birth chart, and you just pick and choose the ones that are you and ignore the other ones as not determinant on that matter, right? So in that regards, it's just you have to do all of the work. The astrology doesn't do any of the work. Put it that way.
There's a lot of work to do in astrology. It took me years to learn what I did learn.
Should women be permitted to kill their own babies with impunity? I mean, permitted by whom? I mean, like, should there be a fish and game permit? Like, it's baby season? Is that what you mean by permitted?
What if their baby is a goldfish?
Are you asking me if we should exempt babies from laws against murder? Then the answer is no.
But they have a right to say what they want to say. Babies have a lot of things to say, you know?
Well, the point is, if Klaus is asking me, should we amend the laws against murder to say this doesn't apply to babies? The answer is no, we shouldn't do that. Well, they may be very, very inconvenient, but nevertheless, I would say the answer to that is no. I do.
Our baby. Yes. Who are?
Well, I mean, that's what I said in my giving the correct thing, right? It's like, what I'm saying about the property thing is, if you're going to argue it as a natural rights issue, which everybody does, then the correct way to argue it is as a property right. But that comes with conditions, right? That people don't want. And then what women actually want is the right to an abortion. Now, it is conceivable to create that right as a constitutional civil right. It doesn't link to any natural right at all by the 10th Amendment and basically judicial decree. There are reasons why the courts don't like to do that, because they're kind of seizing the jurisdictional power of the legislature in part, but they did that anyway with Roe v. Wade. So the point is, there are the legal arguments, which haven't changed, and then there are the philosophical arguments, which today I sort of revealed my philosophical cards on the matter, which for some reason I habitually don't do in certain things. It's like, you haven't done your half of the work yet. Why? It's a debate thing. It's like, why would I do your work for you? But of course that's not what we're doing here, so that's why it's dumb to be like that, okay? Anyway, the thing is, the reality of the issue is that it's a unique issue. It's got a unique set of variables and constraints, and the primary reason for that is that the mother has a observational monopoly, and that for people who have never been observed by anybody, that impacts the extent to which we are able to feel and to believe that they exist. So, as a consequence, we're dealing with a unique class of individual, namely one that exists, presumably, but isn't observed except by one party. And that party, in her observational monopoly, may or may not choose to inform others that she's even pregnant. The issue kind of by the courts was a failure to distinguish between that metaphysical monopoly, which is both legitimate and inherent to the thing, and sustaining the control of that monopoly once it's concretized into the regular world, which point that monopoly ends, But the point is, the reason we have so much trouble arguing about it is because it doesn't resolve via existing paradigms. If you want to use existing paradigms, it would resolve in a pro-life fashion, and yet even pro-life people don't really apply their paradigms generally across the board because they don't really feel like it actually is murder. I mean, some of the hardcore ones might be saying like, let's arrest women to get an abortion for murder, but the fact is, almost everybody who wants to make abortion illegal does not want also to arrest and convict people of murder when they do have abortions. So there's a mushiness about the issue that makes it incredibly difficult to resolve with existing precedent and approaches. The key thing is, my whole point about abortion is this. It's a perfect example of political talk gone totally wrong. Because I've yet to hear anybody but me, basically, not come at this issue with certitude about what they want to happen and a willingness to throw any argument they want or any argument they hear that sounds like it might be supportive of the idea at the issue, without caring at all about, caring completely about whether they get their way and not at all about whether they get their way in the right way. And so that's the point I'm trying to make about abortion, is that it's just serving as a placeholder here for any other policy issue, which is to say that it's always the case that if you don't care about getting your way in the right way, then you don't deserve to get your way.
It's good to do it the right way. That includes like all parties. That's important.
Yeah. So, Jeremiah Fix, the thing is, yes, there are myriad alternatives to abortion prior to pregnancy. Okay, so sure, it's definitely the case that prior to getting pregnant, a woman has nearly infinite ways that she can avoid getting an abortion. She can stay home that Friday night instead of going out. She can put a chastity belt on.
Can she do needle pointing?
She can needle point. That makes you not get pregnant. She can, insert a chipmunk in her vagina so that in case anybody does put anything up there that might ejaculate anything, the chipmunk will scare it off.
Oh, wow. You don't really think about chipmunks being scary, but I'm sure the sperm would be scared by a chipmunk in the vagina.
Do I personally believe that it is wrong for a woman to abort her baby? Do I personally believe that it is wrong? I'm not exactly sure what that means. If you're asking me, do I treat women I know who've had an abortion as though they had killed a baby, the answer is no. And I don't know anybody who does. So there's that, right? The thing is, I don't know anybody who treats, if they have a friend or something who's a woman and she reveals at some point to them that she's had an abortion, I've never encountered anybody who would then begin treating that woman as though she had killed a baby. No, I have had, I do, I'm thinking of specific people, I have specific people in mind. I know a couple of women that have had abortions. I'm not saying I don't know any. I'm saying I do know a couple of them, and I don't treat them as though they were baby killers. And if in fact I knew that they had, say, killed a 1-year-old baby, then I probably would treat them as baby killers. Well, the thing is, if Klaus, I would say this: if I were a woman, I would not choose to get an abortion.
That's an interesting point of view. That's interesting. Wow. I mean, like, see, like, it's so oh my fucking god, this topic. You know, I'm gonna get religious, God forbid, like, I, like, get pregnant. That would not be ideal.
I mean, so it's like, here's the thing. Let's say Rachel were to have gotten pregnant. Let's say Rachel gets pregnant. I mean, not were to have gotten, but just does get pregnant today for whatever reason. I mean, well, maybe for one reason. The obvious reason being that my sperm somehow made her pregnant. Okay?
Yes.
So let's say I get Rachel pregnant. Now, in that circumstance, we've got a tough decision to make because Rachel needs to take her psych drugs to stay sane. And those psych drugs are not made for pregnant women.
No.
And they are not good for developing children in the womb, right? So, what does one conclude about that?
There's less of a chance of me getting pregnant. It's true. I also have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and like I get like polyps on my eggs. So like,
Hi, light bulb. So, do I think they're irresponsible? I mean,
I could PO.
I think everybody's irresponsible at some point in their lives. It's obviously not the most responsible way to deal with reproduction, and it's also not a very cost-effective way of dealing with reproduction. So, if that's your form of contraception is abortion, then you are making life unnecessarily difficult for yourself. Just on a practicality level, you're going to be spending a lot of money on abortions, and
that's a very good point.
And it's it's like it's its own consequence, right? On that level, if you just exclude the issue of the fetus for a second, getting yourself pregnant and having to get an abortion does in fact have all negative consequences for the person who failed to prevent the pregnancy. It's not like woman's like, woohoo, sure, I'm glad I didn't take the pill. Now I can just get an abortion. Nobody's like that, you know? Nobody's being like that. So, my thing is, what I said at the end of that video earlier is true. I really don't care about it. Like, are you asking me, do I personally believe it's wrong for a woman to get an abortion? I mean, it's a weird question to ask, because I guess what you're saying is, do I believe a negative right has been violated? And my answer to that is, because of the observational monopoly of the mother on an unborn child, I can't epistemologically attain clarity on what's been lost, if anything. So it's really hard for me to say I have any personal beliefs about it at all. Do I think that it's morally wrong to abort a fetus is really what your question is. And my answer is, on some sort of authentic feelings level, I find it sad, abortion, a little bit. And I also just that, so I don't find it sad in the abstract really. I don't know. I have no idea what to say about that. What my personal beliefs are about it. It's like I could tell you what the right arguments are, depending on what you're trying to do. But because it's just not an issue I care about at all. Why would I? You know, it's like, um, I care about it in the following way. I fucking hate wedge issues. That's how I care about it. I hate wedge issues because the amount of energy people put into arguing about them versus the amount of impact they actually have on things is way disproportionate. People care way too much about issues that, like the president doesn't even have anything to do with it. People will vote for their president based on whether or not they're pro-life or pro-choice, even though the president's job is not to make or change laws, but to execute them. Some things they do, but not that one. Right. The reason they think it's murky is because they can't observe the victim. There's no observation of the life before it gets taken. And typically we operate in a world in which before something can be existent, we have to have capacity for it to be observed beyond just the subjective. For it to be existent in a way that external parties have authority over it, it's got to be extant in a way that can be observed by external parties. That's a standard operating procedure for things. And so this is why abortion confuses us a lot, right? It's like it's the absence of that mutuality of observation. And what normally goes along with that is it's your subjective private business. If only you can observe it, then it's both subjective, private, not anybody else's business, and no universals really apply to it. Like the fact that I'm feeling sad today, you can't negate that successfully with any universals because it's my subjective, private. I'm having a monopoly of observation on it. That's our norm. So there's an expectation inherently by a lot of people that norm carry through regarding this matter because it shares that quality. And exactly why things share that quality or not is one of those questions that is not quite sure what it's even asking, I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty for a beverage. I'm going to get myself a cup of coffee. Oh, I remember now.
If Eric was aborted, where would we find the moist cheese? That's a good question. Vincent's mom.
Well, I mean, obviously, if I could retroactively go make an advocacy before my birth, before my conception, let's say, I would advocate that it be illegal for my parents to abort me.
Yeah, totally.
Because then I do have a personal belief about that.
I mean, it is really nice that my parents didn't want to abort me. Like, I was like a blessing.
Beautiful, beautiful trouble. So good and just. Oh, I pet you too. I pet you. Oh yeah, you did tell me. I know. You told me, mister.
And Miss Capio is in the house as well.
So, one of the things I've really spent a lot of time with my feelings, and I realized they've taught me something important. It is true that I prefer being alive to being dead.
That's great.
Yeah, that's some clarity. That's real growth. That's real progress. What if living in the world, without living in the world, I am a quiet dot of a soul? I mean, you mean that metaphorically, or are you saying like prior to your being born? Oh, you want to see Wonderful, Wonderful Kitty? Well, you're not going to get to see Wonderful, Wonderful Kitty because she's not sitting in a good spot. But you can see Trouble. Oh, yes, Capillo. Daddy loves you.
Yes, Mommy and Daddy love you. Mommy and Daddy love each other.
And we also love Trouble. Now we
Aw,
also
look
have to love
at that
him.
big boy.
We're so busy with all of our loves. Your soul was dormant? See, the thing about dormancy, though, Alec, dormancy implies that it had a period of activeness prior to going dormant, you know? And that seems to run afoul of your notion that your soul hadn't been born yet, because if it were dormant, it would have had to have been born before return to a state of dormancy, and then or, be active, attain a state of dormancy, and then become active again for it to really count as dormancy, right? Otherwise, it's just like this happens sometimes. I've got so much masculine, manly energy in my junk that it'll literally be like fireworks in my pants, as you can see here. This is just my excess masculine virility just manifesting as a light show for you, like the aurora borealis. Basically, I'm having coronal ejecta right now, except it's from my junk.
I have to be careful.
Yeah, you don't want to lose your electronics, because there could be some strong EMPs.
Oh.
My groinal region does produce electromagnetic pulses that could be strong enough to knock out your phone, your TV, all your equipment. So be careful when we're having a coronal crotch event, as we are now. These sparkling lights, they look pretty, but it's dangerous. Stay away.
It's very...
It's like they've got these billboards up around that says, "Stay away from downed power lines." Like, they even have like a picture of like not like a line drawing kind of icon-y picture of a sparking thing, and then like a guy and like, "Don't go over here," like an X or something. I mean, it reminds me also of the tsunami escape route. So down by the beach, they've got these signs that say tsunami escape route, and they have arrows pointing which way to go. The thing is, of course, guess which direction the tsunami escape route is? That's right. It's away from the ocean. Do we really need signs to tell us that in the case of a tsunami, we should go away from the ocean instead of towards the ocean? Do we really need those signs? I don't think so.
I believe in the power of people more than that. We don't need those signs to know that if there was a tsunami coming, to not run towards it, to run away from it.
Well, I mean, I saw an equivalent thing. I wish I could find it again. It was quite a long time ago. But I saw a government prepared thing that was basically instructions on what to do in case of a nuclear blast. And it's like, here's the person, right? And here's like the nuclear blast. And it's got arrows moving away from the nuclear blast. And again, I thought, Do we really need instructions on that? It's like, if a bomb is being dropped on you, move away from the bomb, not towards it.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, did you hear that? Thank God we tuned into this broadcast because, whew, I just instinctually, I would have thought towards. I would have thought towards.
Maybe it's like for people who freeze too. Like, oh shit, I have to move.
No, this is, guys, as I've explained, Chris Chapman, everybody who just arrived or whatever, this here is the result, this is an aurora borealis effect. It's the result of coronal ejecta from my crotchal sun. When I overflow too much with manly masculine virility and the vigor of testosterone-laden manhood, then this starts to happen. You're never going to outsmart a tsunami, Chris Chapman. Everybody knows tsunamis are the smartest of all your natural disasters. They're the masterminds. They mastermind their way to get everybody wet. Yeah, I guess so. Maybe I'm transubstantiating some of Yaylor's magnificent manliness into my pants right now. Magnificent manliness. A bomb's like a forest fire. Everyone knows it's safer closer to the fire. Wait, that's not correct.
That's non-safe advice.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we'll have signs up on the road saying things like, "Don't drive into this wall." You know, it's like, basic things people should be able to figure out for themselves. Like, really, really basic stuff. I mean, like, move away from a tsunami, move away from a nuclear blast. Don't try to swim in the molten lava. You know, certain basic things. Everybody should not expect to get instructions about. You know, like if I go to a restaurant, they can reasonably expect that I know that there are dangers associated with using a fork. That I might accidentally stab the back of my throat with my fork if I'm just like reckless in using it. It's like, oh, you know.
But the server doesn't say like, oh, be careful with your fork because you're gonna stab yourself with it. You might stab yourself with it.
Remember, forks can be dangerous. They have like a little information card that shows the prongs before going into a piece of food and a check mark next to it. The prongs before going into the back of your throat and an X through it. The thing is, we shouldn't have to tell everybody everything that might possibly go wrong, no matter what. Do not anally or orally boost the airborne Ebola sample. It's like, yeah, there's an antifreeze. Drinking this may result in serious injury or death. It's antifreeze. If you think, I could probably drink this, you got bigger problems. I mean, then chances are you're not going to read the instructions not to drink it, right? If for some reason you are inclined to drink antifreeze with the notion that I'm sure it's fine, okay, then you probably aren't even going to read the instructions on the back that says don't drink it. Because it seems pretty obvious that that's not something you should drink.
Yeah.
Have I ever thought about being evil? Like, have I ever considered undertaking a protocol of becoming evil? No. Like, have I ever thought about maybe I should be evil? No. It's not sustainable argumentationally. That's why, basically. I live in a world in which I try to make myself not subject to critiques about certain things, you know. And one such possible critique is that you are being bad. And that's the worst critique because then you lose the moral high ground and then you don't get to shame the other person, they get to shame you. That's no fun. That's no fun at all. Your friend has the right plague. Give him a hug to cheer him up. Well, if you got the right plague, why isn't he cheering up? He should just be glad he didn't get the wrong plague. Now, that would require some cheering up.
Yes, it would.
What you want is either the green or the yellow plague, not the black plague. When it comes to plagues, black, once you go black, you die. But what about satisfying yourself? Has it ever come at the deliberate cost of others? At the deliberate cost of others? Well, I mean, only if it's an equilibrium restoring thing. Like I might determine that in order to be satisfied in this matter, I need to restore equilibrium in some way because there's an injustice standing. In which case, you might say I would deliberately attain satisfaction at the cost of somebody else, but it would be just. So, yes, well, just because something tastes sweet doesn't mean you should drink it, and that's one of those things that doesn't really shouldn't have to be told to everybody, but I guess.
But yeah, so if you're thinking about drinking antifreeze, I'd say it's not a good idea.
Now, on the other hand, when you see, like, sprinkler systems on things say non-potable water, that's a good sign to have because if I'm at my house and I'm drinking water out of the hose, no problem. But if I'm out in the world, some places use recycled water and that's not drinkable to water their plants, right? So it is a good idea to have that sign up because you never know when some thirsty person might just walk by and have their drink of the water, not knowing it's not good to drink because most water that we use for everything here is good to drink. Do you prioritize your comfort in the presence of the discomfort of others? Or when your comfort causes discomfort in others? I mean, I don't see other people's comfort as linking to my comfort at all. I see me being comfortable as a prerequisite to even existing. It's like if I'm uncomfortable, then I'm not doing anything except trying to get comfortable. It's a good question. Where's my light bulb? Maybe it's just a bullshit hypothesis to explain why somebody drank antifreeze. Well, it must have tasted sweet. Maybe. Who knows? I'm not going to taste it.
I bet it was Mary Poppins.
Probably was.
She,
Probably was.
She gets people to drink things.
Mm-hmm.
Meow.
I don't know how it is exactly that my comfort would therefore cause discomfort in others. If you're talking about physical comfort, if you're talking about like ontological comfort, well, nobody's entitled to ontological comfort when they are healthy, actualized, when they've engaged in the. Oh my goodness.
I know.
So cute.
Oh no.
When they've engaged in the right processes, then they become. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I'm mostly talking about physical discomfort. When you talk about discomfort, I mean physical discomfort. I can think of an example recently when I was caused some kind of emotional / ontological discomfort. And that was when Jeffrey's mom and Jeffrey, I was working with them on this stupid history thing, and they were. It's like they hadn't listened to me. They made a mess because they didn't listen to me. That I told them they were gonna make, more or less. Like, you know, you can't try to mush these two things together. I didn't articulate exactly, like, why. Well, I guess I sort of did articulate why it would be bad, but not exactly how it would be bad. But regardless, I'm being too TI perfect here. The thing is, it made me uncomfortable because I realized I was banging my head against N-I-polar, and it made me sad, and it made me mad, and when I yelled at them that time, I didn't feel bad afterwards. I felt like I normally do. I felt like they had fucked up, not me. So in that instance, I did feel uncomfortable. And it was because I was being asked too much to violate my absolute values, which include authenticity, which include a kind of a selfish FE perspective, which includes the truth, and which includes good ideas instead of freaking garbage. And that's why I want Jeffrey to treat it like an AHP treats the matter. You go in and attack. You don't worry about your stupid grade. You go in and you make it very clear early in your high school career that everybody can suck it. And, you know, it's like you're gonna write what you want to write. You are more intellectually robust than a teacher, and there's no way in fucking hell you're going to be constrained into doing something stupid. Instead, you'll convert that assignment into critique of what the teacher's assigned every fucking time until they learn their fucking lesson. That's how Jeffrey should have dealt with things right from the beginning. But Jeffrey's mom is an interfacer and N-I-polar, and as a consequence, at certain points I get like, okay, I can't watch this train wreck. It's the thing. It's like when things make me sad, that's when I get uncomfortable. If things make me just mad, it's fine. No, Alec. In that instance, it didn't really do anything. In instances where I express anger or frustration normally with them, it makes me feel bad later, afterwards. This one was notable because it didn't make me feel bad, not because it made me feel good. I don't want to get angry and yell at people. It's not the case that I mean, sometimes I'm in a pissy mood and I do want to take something to task. But by and large, I really don't like to yell and fight. I don't like all the pushback. You know, I want, and I get it that I'm one person, they're other person, and so I'm not entitled to this. But what I want is a lot less pushback. I want things to just go smoothly. You know, like just here, do it like this, and they just listen to me and do it like that. Instead, they're trying to both like it's like if I were a carpenter, they'd say, well, we want you to make something that's a cupboard that's got swinging doors on it, but that also has doors that that fold down and go in instead of swing. I'd be like, well, you have to pick one. You can't have both of them. It's either a swinging door or it's this other thing you're talking about. And they go, okay, well, just do it this way first, and then we'll change it midway. And so I start like making this shelving thing, and then they say, okay, now we want to be different. Well, it's too late. I cut a bunch of wood now. Slowly the cabbages when someone is making a big deal out of something unimportant. Slowly the cabbages. I like that. Slowly the cabbages. Whatever's coming after that is not important. Not only are the cabbages doing it, but they're doing it slowly.
Oh.
That's a great expression. Trouble's right there now. He went down to the ground because he wanted to sit next to Capillo. And Capillo...
She's in the kitchen right now.
So why do I express yourself? Why do I express myself? I don't express myself. I explain things. That's very different, okay? Expressing yourself is something that is mushy and for girls, okay? I don't have a diary. I have a journal, okay? I don't have a purse. I've got a satchel. And I don't express myself. I explain things. I don't have dolls. I have action figures. All of these things are true. My easy bake oven is a hard bake oven.
Wow.
Yeah, Madonna expresses herself.
Yeah, a little too much.
I'm Madonna,
agree,
bitch.
Show media. But
Yeah, so it's like when I get angry or upset or frustrated, it's one of two phenomena. Either I know they don't know better, so I shouldn't get mad at them, and then I feel bad about it. Or, in this case, they should have known better, and I'm legitimately mad at them, in which case they're to blame for my emotions because they did something wrong. And it's like okay. Winston's mom, Jeffrey's mom says to me, well, look, Eric, you're probably the only person in the world who doesn't have to bend over for anybody. I'm like, are you crazy? I bend over for people all the time. Every time I fuck up, I have to bend over for people. And she says, well, sure, but only if you fuck up. Well, of course. I mean, why would you bend over for somebody if you didn't fuck up? Right? You know what I'm saying? No, this isn't cooking. This is food. This is burning edible stuff. Okay? I'm not cooking. That's girls' work. I'm not cleaning. I'm just relocating dirt. I'm not crying. My eyes are sweating. As they say in anime, you know? Right. Look, I'm a real man. I only got two emotions. Flat and angry. So when you're saying like, why do I express? Well, it's like I'm talking to Jeffrey and Jeffrey's mom a lot about how to deal with this or that unfair, irrational, or otherwise bullshit nonsense from some teacher. So, thing is, they want my advice, but they never follow it. They always want it and never follow it. But you know, whatever, they're paying me, so it's their money. Like sometimes the mom will book a session just to basically have me be her therapist. She's actually said, okay, I want to talk to you now, Eric, about stuff, and I want to be on the clock so that I don't have to feel rushed or whatever. Okay. Not that you ever listen to me. I don't know. But it's like, yes, it's true. I'm giving you great advice. But why would you buy something and then just throw it immediately away into the trash? It's like, yes, hey, look, Rachel, we got the best brand of cheese at the store. Now let's throw it away in this trash can right outside the store. Weren't we smart to get such a good brand of cheese? We were so smart to get such a good brand of cheese. Yes, you were so smart to get such a good brand of cheese. But maybe instead of throwing it away, you could have taken it home and eaten it. Think about it that way. So I feel like a good brand of cheese is just getting thrown away in the trash right outside the supermarket.
That's not cheese. Cheese likes to be eaten. We have the loaf of the baby loaf, and there wasn't a bag big enough to put it in, so I put aluminum foil over it.
Good call. No, it doesn't really devalue me because, in fact, that this family values me immensely is obvious, right? She is not listening to me because she doesn't value what I say or think that I'm right. She thinks that, well, she thinks the same thing every ESTJ thinks. You might be technically right, but that's not how the world works. You know? That shit. But the thing, isn't that weird that she would say that? Like, well, I say, well, no, that's not true. I have to bend over people all the time. Every time I fuck up, I have to bend over people, just like everybody else does. And she's like, yeah, but that's only when you fuck up. As though she has, what, a general policy of bending over for people in order to get what she wants as a standard operating procedure or something.
It's like a two thing. It's gotta be.
I don't know, but it's like, that's not how you say what. It's like, you're saying, so you're saying to me, Eric, you're the only person in the world who doesn't bend over for people when they're wrong? No, I'm sure there are lots of people like me who are fighty and who say, no, you have to be right to hold me accountable, and if you're wrong, I'll hold you accountable, and that's fair. I'm sure there are lots of people like me. I'm certainly not the only person. And if I were what she was saying, somebody who never has to bend over for anybody, then I'd be a narcissist.
Yeah, that's what happens with people. You can tell a narcissist if they, don't bend over.
Everybody has to take their turn being accountable when they're wrong. And nobody's always right. Nobody never fucks up. So that's how you tell whether somebody is, in fact, themselves fucked up. It's like if they can't take their turn being held accountable when they've earned it, then you know there's something very, very, very wrong with them. Because to live together peaceably in a civil society, we have to begin with a couple of things. One, nobody's perfect and everybody makes mistakes. And two, that there needs to be ways for people to remedy mistakes. And not be yoked with them forever, right? Like, so if I am in a bad mood and I say something kind of short or mean or not very in a bad tone to Rachel or something, then I will apologize, and then it doesn't change the reality that it happened, but it works fine in a reality where everybody's operating under the assumption that nobody is perfect, nobody can expect people to be perfect, and that mistakes are best forgiven when they're not a big deal, because you too won't be perfect, and you too will make a mistake and need to be forgiven at some point, and turnabout is fair play, right? So if you can't be held accountable, though, then you cannot engage in any kind of social thing. Social things require parties to have some avenue of diplomacy, and that's what narcissists take away as an avenue of diplomacy. With no avenue of diplomacy, then you're always only ever at peace or at war, and never trying to resolve anything. So I saved the last two of these just for kicks for myself. I did some of them like half of mine, and then I started feeling like, yeah. So then I gave the rest of mine to Rachel, but I set aside two of them for later, which are right now. People gonna people. Unless they animals, Winston's mom. Unless they animals, in which case people gonna animal. You know that. You've known that for a long time now, Winston's mom. That if people is animals, they ain't gonna people. They gonna animal.
Oh, are they gonna animal?
Well, of course they is.
Oh.
Animals got an animal, people's got a people, bugs got a bug, and the Lord above gonna smite you down if you disagree.
I don't want to be smitten.
You don't want to be smitten.
Smited.
No, smitten is correct.
Oh, smitten.
Yeah. You know, once you have been smitten, well, then you could say, yesterday God smote me. But you might say, tomorrow God will smite me. You might say, I have been being smitten. You might say, I will have been being smitten. Any of those things is fine. I set aside two special treats for myself. After Rachel finished all the whippers, I got two left in my pocket.
Good for you. Party time, USA.
It's a party at my parents' house.
It's Friday the 13th, I believe.
Well, I do reckon I smell like a beetle bottom.
Oh, a beetle bottom, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, well. That is some kind of smell then.
If y'all provide me some country singers, I'll be happy to countryfy them for you.
This old shoe is my precious one's. It was a baby's boot.
This old shoe was my precious one's baby's boot. Like that, for example, yeah. These old shoe beans be my precious boots boohines, as they say back in the old country.
Them boots has laces too. They were laced with love.
Well, they had a pumpkin pie festival every fall. A pumpkin pie ice cream. I guess they had the giant pumpkin weight and the jams, the pies, the whole 9 yards, if you will, of pumpkins.
Wheel of pumpkins.
Yes, sir.
All those things combined, they make America.
There's a whole lot of pumpkins.
Yes. You gotta know when to have pumpkin.
Ain't
and not to
nobody
have pumpkin.
disputing the pumpkins.
Oh, sorry, Trouble.
There ain't nobody out there offering refutations of pumpkinhood.
She's not coming back though.
If there be a Satan, if there be a he-man devil, if there be a she-lady devil, if there be a... You know how it is nowadays with the transsexuals. If there be a transsexual devil, we know that he's up to no good. That's what it means to be the devil.
Oh, that's so scary. I don't know if I'll be able to go to sleep tonight.
Well, I want you to picture in your head right now a glowing red face with glowing red horns.
No!
It's okay. I'm not done yet.
Okay.
And he's holding up a sign. It says, Rachel, here is where you can pick up your map. You are lost. You need to go the other direction.
Oh, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Horned.
He was known as the incorrect destination guidepost pamphlet handing out devil.
Oh, what a nice job to have.
It's a long job title as well.
Yes, it is.
So today I'm glad to be here to preach to all of you who are here in attendance to hear the words of wisdom that come from the truth and the light of the Lord. I am here. I am glad. I am pleased to see so many here in our pews today. My lovely wife Rachel and I, she, the preacher's wife, I, arch pastor of the God's Big Heaven Incorporated Church. We are so proud and pleased to have you in our company today.
Yes, we are.
Let us grab hands with your neighbors. Let us sway back and forth in a most powerful way. And let us offer worship to the Lord. Oh, worship, worship. Oh, worship to the Lord. Oh, worship, glory. All glory is the Amen, the Lord.
Amen, the Lord.
Amen, the Lord. There are those among you today, here among us, sitting, listening with your ears, who know the dark despair of suffering.
Oh, yes.
There are our neighbors, our friends sometimes, and they have sinned. And yet they bathe in the guilt, the shame that has come from having sinned. Unawares, it appears, in their shame, that Jesus Christ our Lord did die so that they too, those heathen sluts, may be forgiven. Amen. Praise the Lord. Forgive the sluts, Lord. Forgive them all. They know not what they do when they spreadeth their legs. You didn't explicitly say anything in the Bible about blowjobs, so it's understandable these sluts are stray from your path. If you wanted them not to suck on penises, you should have said so directly in the Bible. Amen. Praise the Lord. So, now, some of the parishioners have come and says to me, Pastor, we are concerned that these so-called blow jobs keep coming up in every sermon. And I say, that is the matter at hand. This is the problem that is plaguing contemporary society today. It is not a problem so much of sodomy per se, and we might try to broaden the definition thereof to include not just the anus but the mouth. And yet I ask, dear Lord, give us guidance. Why? After all, doth not this mouth speak thine truth? Doth not this mouth nod in agreement? And yet, doth not also poop come out of our buttholes?
It sure does.
Where else does it come from? Am I lying?
Nope, you are telling the truth.
I'm telling the truth. So, I ask you again, parishioners, is it really sodomy to get a blowjob? And the answer clearly is, the Lord wants you to get a blowjob. Amen. Praise the Lord. Don't let Gradually, all the parishioners are leaving the church. Don't let the fire sword of Michael strike you down because you failed to suck your man's dick. Don't let it happen to you. The Lord will shame you once you die from the Michael strike of the fire sword. Once you get to heaven, He'll shame you and then immediately kick you straight down to hell, where you will burn in a lake of lukewarm soup for all eternity. Burn's a little strong of a word. Let's just say become wrinkly, as one would and does if required to reside in soup for all of eternity. You imagine yourself, fingers so wrinkled, you don't think you ever even seen them before. These my fingers? These wrinkled sausages? That's what you're gonna say. Give it, what, 3 weeks at most. Your entire body gonna be like that wrinkled sausage. I don't even care even what kind of soup it is. It don't matter. That's the point. Now this time when we pass the collection plate around, my lovely, beloved and blessed wife, Rachel, and I, we are doing the mission of the Lord, preaching the Word of God. We are carrying around with us the burden of the soul of humanity itself, and we ask you, why are there not but pennies and nickels in our collection plate today? Reach deep into your pockets, friends, and pull out $41,000 bills and place them quickly into the collection dish and then hand it to me. And she and I will discuss it later. And probably you'll get a special mention in next week's sermon. Alright, making progress here. Now, for those of you who have not yet signed up for our monthly holy water delivery service, I recommend now's the time. Your souls are getting dirtier and filthier, more tainted and foul by the moment.
By the moment.
Mrs. Branson, are you over there? Yeah. You have not yet signed up for the holy water delivery service, and the stench of your satanically despoiled soul, I can smell it from halfway across town. It's getting worse. It is dying within you like the carcass of a possum under your front porch.
My word.
So, anyway, as you probably know, I am the archpastor of God's Big Heaven Church, which has 2 advantages over most of your other Christian churches. One, we offer the biggest and most up-to-date heaven, full Wi-Fi, heaven-wide Wi-Fi. It's a much larger heaven, because the old heavens were built back in the day, when there weren't that many souls to accommodate.
True that.
But, what with all that industrial food production and such, our population growth's been quite remarkable as a species.
You don't say.
Here's what a couple of intuitors do when they do a box of whippets and they can see the trash can from where they're sitting. Instead of either of us moving the trash can closer to us while we were doing the whippet so that we could put the empty whippet thing in the trash can, we both spent the entire box of whippets throwing our empties at the trash can across the room. Weed turns you into an F.I. Dom. Explain, please. Those are the moistures of your heart. Yeah. Your feelings always feeling moist. And when you're sad and happy feeling, yeah, or feeling other kinds of feelings. That's why.
Feelings.
I mean, the real reason for that why she turns into that Vidom when she smokes weed is because she still gets high. You lucky bastard, you.
That is nice.
I don't. On marijuana, anyway. I will tell you this. The weirdest typing session that I could not publish. I mean, nothing really stands out to me as especially weird or like story worthy. You know, people come in a limited number of flavors. Some of them are unpleasant because the person really doesn't want to be the type. Those ones rarely publish, you know. And that's less pleasant because usually there's not a lot of pushback, but I can tell they're not happy and I want them to be happy, so then I try to explain a little further, but I'm not understanding that they need to be left with their feelings. They don't need to be convinced more. They're not feeling emotionally good about it, you know. I don't like those ones. I don't like that when that happens. I always feel like maybe I could have. I really have made a big effort to. Well, I don't know if I made a big effort, but I've noted that my thinking on being careful with people has become much more overt than it used to be. When I'm talking to them, when I'm typing them, I have a better bedside manner, you might say. But and it's because I care more because I'm able to care more now. It's like, that's the thing about caring for me is and it may be true for everybody, I'm not really sure. But I feel like most of my incarnations of self from the past that are less than ideal, that I was still doing the best I could at the time. You know, it was like I didn't know any better, or something like that. There are some things where I recognize that I did know better, and I feel like a sense of either I should have gotten bit in the ass for that, or I did, and it's appropriate, is usually the outcome of that. What type would you handle the most rough? I mean, in typing sessions, I try not to handle anybody rough. I try to be friendly and everything, but I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that question. You're asking F questions that are making me confused. Do you guys think INFP HD is a real INFP? Any of you all watch that guy? I don't feel he fits the bill based on X characteristics. Alright, I'll watch him. We can type please him. We'll do that like tomorrow or something. I don't know. I'm pretty tired tonight. I think Rachel probably is too.
Yeah, I'm taking my medicine right now. It'll kick in like in an hour.
I suspect we both feel kind of epistemologically jostled by all of this Washington talk, this moving thing, so forth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's affected me more than I realize.
So, can you tell me tell us more about that process for you?
Um, well, when I first heard the news, I was happy about Everett because it looked like a really pretty place to live. Um, and I thought that it was nice to move. It's like, wow, I guess like we're ready. Like it's time. And then when Washington was like out of the question, I was like, oh man. Um, but then today, news of your dad being happy with a place that's close to the one that you suggested, um, was nice to hear. Like that he like did research on someplace that you did research on too.
Well, I'm glad it all played out the way it did. I just sent him. I was gonna try to like. Any doms tend to want to do this sort of stupid thing. Like I was gonna try to send him several options to look at, but instead I could really only find one in Washington State that really seemed to meet all of our specific criteria, and so I just sent that one, and I think that was a wiser choice anyway, because what he really probably needed and wanted, although he didn't isn't aware of this exactly, is he wanted some pull from us. That we want this, we're gonna try to make it happen. And in fact, we do want this, and we want it because um, it's just time to live in our own place. And as I said, there's a variety of ways in which we could do that, but this is one of those ways, and it doesn't involve me having to get a full time job or otherwise figure out how to handle a bunch of housing costs. So, in that regard, I think it's gonna be nice. The thing is, Rachel's never had the opportunity to really feel any ownership over any space. You know, it's like when she came here, this was our space at first, and we shared the best like we could, but it's a small space for two people, and we didn't really have a whole lot of problems or anything with each other. But it once we moved into the master bedroom as well. Once my mom moved into the nursing home, it became obvious how necessary it was for us to have two rooms. And I don't know how we did it before because I stay out, she goes to sleep, and it was impossible to live together in this one little place. But we did it anyway,
Yeah.
and we didn't really even fight about it or anything. So, but I'm excited to be to be able to operate at more of our discretion. You know, it's like the thing is, this place limits me and us in a lot of ways, but they're all minor, insignificant little things. Like basically, I can't really do what I want to anything around here because it's not mine. You know, so I might do stupid things. Okay, like accidentally end up putting a hole in the wall or something that I don't want to do and regret doing, but I can't do them here. The thing is, this is prior to the last 2.5 years, 3 years or so now, coming up on 3 years. I hadn't lived with my parents for, God knows, like, you know, for a good 25 years since I had last lived with my parents. So, at first it was nice, and refreshing and felt like I was returning from a very long trip into the world, you know, and back in the womb of home after having been out in the wilderness so long that you lost the attachment to the womb. But it was still, you still had big memories of it. It still resonated with me on a lot of levels. But and then I'm glad that well, basically we needed to put in a certain amount of time here together like this, and then for my dad to sort of settle into the idea that yes, this is a couple that's gonna last. That Eric's serious about this because the thing is, I'd gotten 2.5 years into Kimberly before I had to say I can't. I gotta. So it's like, and then the wife before that he had a lot of faith in her permanence. Well, she wasn't permanent, and it had nothing to do with me at all. She just wanted out. So, he doesn't have a lot of, his SI has taught him that Eric can't be relied upon, and the wife before that I had to divorce as well. So, Eric cannot be relied upon to stay with a partner indefinitely or to have a life partner. Of course, in this instance, previous experience is no indicator of future performance because I've learned something from those mistakes, and also just it's not like relationships land on a spectrum. Even though we almost always talked about them as though they do, and I've always prior thought about them as though they do. You've got a relationship that's somewhere between bad and good, and it goes back and forth, and it requires more or less work, and it's somewhere along the spectrum. No, you either have a good relationship, in which case there's none of that nonsense, or you've got a relationship you can make work, or you have one that you can't make work. Those are the three possibilities. This is the first of those, where it's like, when you're in the right relationship, it doesn't require, the key thing is that you're not conflicting on framework levels. So, and that's the biggest problem in relationships, is when there's framework conflicts. What have I learned? Well, I've learned a lot, but I would say probably what I learned actually didn't have anything to do with Rachel and I ending up together. This time, I looked in the right place. This time I looked in the right place. I looked around the channel, and I found somebody who actually, liked me. That was kind of helpful, better than the previous choices that didn't really like me very much. What are framework conflicts? Well, when I get into an argument with Jeffrey's mom, that's a framework problem. It's not really a conflict over framework. It's a framework problem that she's not granting that words are going to have any determinate quality here. So on that level, we're operating under different frameworks because she just wants me to hear her give her advice, and I want to tell her what to do. Because otherwise, I don't want to advise her, right? It's like I don't want to spend my time telling her a lot of things that she should do if she's asking me to tell her what to do, and then for her not to do them.
Yeah.
So in that regard, we're operating under different frameworks because what she expects from that conversation is that it's going to allow her to hear possible things that might be done. And what I think is going to happen in that conversation is that I'm going to solve a problem. But she's a TE dome, so she's never going to let me solve any problems. She's always going to, it'll always be, Eric has to be an instrumental force that she's utilizing to solve a problem. Eric, when she, ESTJs in general panic at the notion of letting an ENTP solve a problem. So, sometimes for very good reason, and sometimes to their detriment, because there are some things we are good at and better at than they are solving. Even though they're great at solving problems, and they're great at anticipating problems, and they're great at preparing for things. Like, my dad's calculating years, money's coming in, portfolio, equity in the home, various things, and making sure everybody's set up as he wants so that he doesn't have, so everything's fine for everybody for the rest of his life. That's great. That's fantastic. It's so, I agree. It's like, I'm never going to compete against that kind of stuff. But if you've got a much smaller kind of problem, something much more specific, especially if it has to do with words, ESTJs would be wise to trust ENTPs to handle it, because ESTJs just don't have faith that being right matters to other people or to the world, or that it will get you what you need to get. In some contexts it will, though. In those contexts, they need to listen to the ENTP. When it comes to like legal matters and stuff like that, right? Where their NI polar is just killing them. But they never will, because it's polar and they're the benefactor and the ENTP is the beneficiary. I have a zit right there. It looks like I don't know, some kind of like red hole in my arm. But it's not a hole, it's just a red spot. So what are framework conflicts? Are conflicts where, like, if we're not having a framework conflict, then it would go like this. What do you want to have for lunch? Well, I want to have hamburgers. I think we should have hamburgers. Okay, well, I think we should have pizza. Okay, well, why should we have hamburgers? Well, because they're more delicious. No, okay, well, I think we should have pizza because I think pizza's more delicious. So now we're on agreement that whatever food is most delicious is the one that we should have. We agree on framework. If, on the other hand, we are talking about lunch and I say, I think we should get burgers, and you go, I think we should get a salad. I said, we should get burgers because they're most delicious. And you say, we should get salad because they're most healthy. Now we disagree on framework. One of us is saying, he who establishes their food is healthiest should win this point. The other one's saying, he who establishes that the food they recommend is most delicious should win this point. So then they need to have arguments called prefer my framework arguments. Each party then needs to argue, okay, well, why ought we prefer deliciousness over health, or why ought we prefer health over deliciousness? And then whoever wins that framework argument is probably going to win the round. However, it is generally going to happen in any kind of real debate round that both people will then also argue under their opponent's framework. So I'll say, well, yes, I'm saying that we should eat hamburgers because they're more delicious. But I will also point out that I win under your framework as well. They are also more healthy. Hamburgers are more healthy than the salad, and more delicious. I'm saying you should vote for hamburgers because they're more delicious. But if, Judge, you choose to vote for the one that's more healthy instead, you're still going to vote for my hamburgers because they're more healthy. Meanwhile, the salad person will be doing the same thing in the other direction, saying, well, it is true that you should vote for the salad because it's more healthy, and my salad definitely is more healthy. But even if you choose to vote under his framework and vote for what's more delicious, you should still vote for the salad because the salad is more delicious than the hamburger too. So that would be an example of two people conflicting on a framework and then arguing that their case, or just saying, really, they're not justifying with anything, just stating that their case wins under the other person's framework as well as their own. And of course, then they'd have to make arguments as to why you should prefer their own framework over the other person's framework. Whichever of those arguments wins gets framework, and then framework cascades down. So let's say the judge decides the better prefer my framework arguments were we should judge on deliciousness. But he looks at the flow of the round and he determines that under that framework actually salad won. So in that instance, it doesn't matter that hamburger won the framework because he lost under his own framework, so salad wins the round. Also, it could be the case that they say, I'm going to go with your framework deliciousness and your case. That's much more natural to happen because you've got your framework already designed to fit with your case. But sometimes you can get beat at your own game by the other guy, right? So that's a quick primer on framework. It wasn't that fun?
That was so good.
I'm in a framework battle with an ESFJ regarding marriage. You never win any argument for more than temporarily with ESFJs. Klaus Schwab. There is no permanence to arguments with like ESFJs, and it will eventually drive you insane. They'll just go from here to 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 here, you know? Like, they never let you, the lack of NI means they're constantly moving, like either shifting or expanding the scope of what's being discussed right as you're about to close it. Right about as you're about to resolve and close off this thing. They're like, meow, meow, meow. I chased Candace around verbally, this little game that they play. I don't know how many hours I wasted doing that shit. You never get anywhere. You never get anywhere with it. It's like, okay, are you doing this on purpose? But I knew she wasn't. I could tell Candace wasn't doing it on purpose. She just had this kind of like, almost scared, I don't understand look in her eyes, you know? And I'm like, but how can you not
Must be so frustrating.
You read wrong, show media. I'm living longest. 500 years old at least. That's a minimum.
That makes me happy to hear.
Me too. I was glad when I learned that from Pablo today. Pablo being one of the guys who was working in the yard next door. He was using the weed whacker, and I said, "Hey, Pablo," and he didn't really look at me. He had on ear protection, you know, and it was loud. But I said to him, like, how long do you think I'm gonna live? And I couldn't exactly hear his answer precisely, but I'm pretty sure I heard something that sounded kind of like 500 years. It might have been the sound of the weed whacker, but even if it were, it would just be Pablo channeling God to speak to me through the weed whacker.
Yeah.
So, that's how I know. I mean, my mom certainly is, she certainly was healthy her whole life, you know, as an SI dom. And my dad sure is healthy, he's an SI tool user. But ESFJs tend to be a little on the heavy side. I don't know if that impacts their longevity or not. I don't know. I've decided I don't like any answer that doesn't say that Eric and Rachel live the longest.
Yeah. That's what I was hoping for too. To be living longest, like with you.
Well, You're not allowed to die until after I die, so you're gonna be.
It's probably gonna be like right away.
It's gonna be a long wait. Okay.
That's good. Come.
Heavy and soaked in insecurity about it. Well, you know,
Yes.
it's not just ESFJs. Women in
Yes.
general like the idea of marriage for some reason, and they view it as a signal that you're serious. Uh, Rachel and I couldn't be any more. I couldn't possibly be any more serious about Rachel, and yet I don't really see us getting married anytime soon because, um, well, it's like I want Rachel to be able to have that if she wants it, and also there's a lot of complications, so it's one of the things that it has to wait for the right time. Um, and right now it's like we're we're directing those kind of like family energies towards basically my mom and dad, and Rachel's full party to this whole thing too. But it just feels like it's not. It's like, well, first of all, none of my marriages have worked before, so it's like not like marriage affords you any benefits, right? It doesn't mean you're more likely to stay together. I don't think it's going to affect our likelihood to stay together at all.
No.
I expect we're going to stay together no matter what.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't feel pressured to at all really to marry. Rachel's not. Rachel's not an ESFJ. She sees the bigger picture. She may still want to get married, but she understands that the fact that we're not getting married isn't due to any lack of seriousness or commitment on my part. You know, which is really what matters, right? Like the reason your ESFJ wants that is because they need to know it in a very concrete way that you're serious and committed, and they can't intuit your actual level of seriousness and commitment beyond, without that kind of physical indication of it. That's fine. However, I'm not being defensive or anything. It's a kind of a touchy subject, I guess, because um, we combine into a complicated situation. You know, it's like things are complicated. There's my parents, there's her parents, and her mom's being, you know, the radioactivity of mom basically is an issue, and there's a lot of things that come into play that make it. You have to kind of decide what you're going to be doing with this marriage anyway. Like what purpose is it serving? And so it would just be a complicated question.
The like literal only like reason I would want to get married is to buy a dress. I don't care about anything else. I don't think that we need to get married, and it's not necessary. We're already happy.
Yeah.
Coming up 3 years is pretty serious.
And most importantly, in the course of those 3 years, we have not gotten, like, this is, if you have a wobble, right, and you keep, let's say you have a wobble in your motorcycle, and sometimes people get what are called speed wobbles. If they're going too faster than their motorcycle is designed to handle, they get speed wobbles. But regardless, let's say you got a wobble in your motorcycle. Well, and you keep speeding up, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and eventually you crash. And then if you slow down, you're still trying to go forward, and well, I mean, Luda, of course she's restricted to white. Otherwise, what's been the point of keeping her a virgin this whole time?
Exactly.
I mean, I have been having to exercise so much restraint, so much self-control. Even though we've been together coming up on 3 years now, we still have not had sexual intercourse because I respect her virginity and I don't want to deflower her until our wedding night.
Yes, so the dress will be white.
Yeah.
From virginal.
Pure white. I mean, I was just really impressed when Rachel told me when we first got together that, in fact, she had not ever been with a man, that she had saved herself for me for 34 years. I was like, wow, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, that's
really
a
nice.
Story. Yeah. Still waiting.
She's still waiting. Because, thank God, she is so grateful for this, too, that I am a man who respects her chastity. So
Yes.
that I just refuse to do. It's like I said about a car. It doesn't matter how much you deserve that car. It doesn't matter how much we want you to have it. It doesn't matter how good you look in that car. If you stole it, you can't keep it because you got it by inappropriate means. Well, the same thing with sex. I am not going to have sex with Rachel until it's fully sanctified by the Pope himself. And then and only then will I take her womanhood from her. I believe it's called. I forcibly seize her womanhood.
You've been inspired by medieval times.
Mm-hmm. Do we have to wait for the deflowering moon? I didn't know there was a moon devoted towards that. That's interesting.
Me neither.
Well, I mean, technically, I'm still a virgin too because at no point did I have my hymen broken by anybody.
Wow.
That makes
me a virgin.
If you never had your hymen broken, then you're a virgin, right? So
Yeah,
I've never had a
that's the
hymen
rules.
broken, so I'm a virgin.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Lucky us.
Yeah, it's really lucky. Two virgins having sex at this age is really rare.
Yeah, it is.
But it's gonna happen someday.
Now, would you wear a white tux?
While we were having sex?
No. Just.
I mean, yes. The answer is yes. During sex, I would wear a white tux. I want it to be fancy for your first time.
That's so nice.
I'll have a top hat, I'll have
Wow.
coattails, I'll have a cane, the whole 9 yards. And then to make it extra fancy, we'll put on some ballroom dance music.
Yes.
And we'll dance with especially designed clothes that have this part here cut out for both of us. And we'll have to choreograph the whole thing ahead of time. It's going to be a very unnatural and spectacle-like affair.
Yeah. You bring spectacle.
As soon as you feel insecure and empty again, sexually, you're a virgin again. Oh yeah, Boba Fett couldn't keep a wrench if his life depended on it. He likes to play around with it too much.
Oh. If you play around with it too much, you don't get it anymore.
This morning, I think it was, or yesterday morning, he got in trouble because he arbitrarily, with great arbitrariness,
Uh-oh.
timed out Karma's pen.
And for something arbitrary?
Oh yeah, because he felt like it.
Wow. Uh-oh. I think you gotta take away that wrench.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone needs to learn their lesson. It's okay, Boba Fett. It happens.
Whatever the Pope does to make holy water holy, I want him to do it to both of our genitals before we have sex.
Please. I need that done before we have sex. Like, I want the Pope to be involved somehow. Because that just makes it so much more official.
KP volunteered to be frank, or is that to be fucked up? KP volunteered to be fucked up.
Whoa.
Maybe you mean that, but probably not.
I don't think he did either.
Oliver Linehan has two what? Two testicles?
Since Mom has a few wrenches, I know she has a wrench here, I think at Zennial and maybe CJ?
I have a wrench at CJ's. I'm pretty important.
Oh, that's pretty important. Yeah.
I've never used it for anything, but I have it. And I could use it in theory. Oh, I didn't know that happened. I didn't. Would you expect me to actually investigate before just jumping to conclusions?
Hello.
Oliver Linehan. Notice how I pronounce your name correctly. You know I'm serious. You cannot blame me for jumping to conclusions without any investigation and punishing somebody for a crime they didn't commit. You can't blame me for that. That could happen to anybody. You really got me there, Oliver Linehan, with that piece of knowledge. I bet you're pretty happy about the way this is playing out, Boba Fett, huh? You didn't have to say anything, Oliver Linehan's doing your work for you.
Yeah.
Perfect, huh? Well, okay, Boba Fett. I didn't know you guys were putting on a play. I thought you were actually stabbing him, so. My bad. You should have put up a sign that said, "We're putting on a play right now." Thanks. I got a special treat. It's a chocolate one. It's my favorite flavor.
Oh, good to know.
If you go to my channel and you want to be a member, you can click on the button to join.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like, it's just like a button there. It says like on the main channel here, it says join. I don't know. It's not that complicated. I'll tell you what else is not that complicated. The reality that this is one very important kitty.
Aww. Look at that baby face.
Oh yes, Trouble. You most certainly are a very important kitty.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh.
You know what's funny is people want to be green. Because most of the people who are green are blue. And so green seems like the rarest color. Even though blue is both a member and a moderator, green's like cooler. Now, our trouble was relentless in loving us into where we just have no choice.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you turn him down, right? And he's so talkative too.
He is so talkative.
He meows the shit out of us. And he's a big purr too.
Mm-hmm. He does love to purr.
Oh yes.
Oh yes.
Capio's not very happy about it though.
No.
But you know what? He's cool to her. He's nice, but she just is super snotty. That's all. She's just like a super snotty kitty.
Yeah.
When his mom linked it up there earlier. So anyway, I guess it's about time to wrap things up here pretty soon. And go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get a good night's sleep because I have a typing session tomorrow. What time is that at? Let me look at the old calendar. Ye old calendar, it's sometimes known as. And it possesses the information that I need, namely what I'm supposed to do. Supposed to. So 1 o'clock tomorrow. That's a good time. It's not too early. Well, I don't know what to say about that, Eliana. Here's the only thing about Tootsie Pops. You get a big bag of them. It'll last for a big box of them like we got. It'll last for a while because, like, eating one of them is kind of a big endeavor. About. Hi. Welcome, channel visitor. This channel is all about.
About.
Yeah.
And man.
I want to change what it says about. I'm going to sit on the about page too. Boy. Talk about a ratchet ass preposition. About. Can't we all just do without about? About? What does that even mean? How does it relate to objects or concepts in space or time or some other way to each other?
Sometimes people say it boot too.
Okay, yeah, not even any grand about pronunciation of it. Didn't you about stand? No.
No.
And you know what? I can tell you for sure that if you try to about stand, you're not going to understand.
Wow. It's just like much to do about nothing.
About. About is a preposition about which there is much controversy. This channel is dedicated to questioning and investigating the preposition about and all of its pronunciations, including about, and to negate it and its evil ways at every turn.
Yes. If we have to, we'll get the Pope in here for the about question too. We're that serious.
This kitty is about to make me pet him just by virtue of being so pettibly fresh.
Yes.
You should see a box, and it says join.
Ooh.
Inside that box, you'll find Jackie Joyner Kersey. The join, it turns out, was just an abbreviation for Jackie Joyner Kersey. Oh, trouble, though. Why are you so spectacular and strange and wonderful? I see you twitching. Now that you trust us and everything, you're just like, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
What's that facial expression supposed to say, Mr. Trebs? You got a funny facial expression right now.
I think it's happy.
He like sleeps with his mouth kind of like open a little bit.
It is a little bit open. How cute.
And the purring so big.
He's so big. He's a big boy.
Look at big purritans you are too.
Big purritans.
You can barely hear Kapia when she purrs.
I know.
Because that's F5 for you. Interesting. Oliver says, is his name is green on his screen, but blue on mine. And only the wrench is blue on both. That's interesting.
It is.
If you want to see my member, you gotta go click on join.
That's how I saw your member. I clicked on join.
Yes, how? You click on the join that's written on the inside of my pants.
Yes.
That's a special join button only you have access to.
Thank you.
Of course, darling. I wouldn't let some dirty old stranger see my member.
No.
I'd say, hey, you dirty old stranger, you. Stop looking at my member. That's what I would say.
Oh, yeah. What a kitty. Oh my gosh, what a kitty face.
Thine is the face of a kitty of goodness, your mouth agape like my heart. Yeah. Grays. Oh, don't mind them. They're among the gray people. They don't count.
Oh, they don't count?
You know what makes them gray?
What makes them gray?
They're neither human nor not human.
Human or not human?
Yeah. That makes them gray. They're indeterminate existentiality.
So gray would be the color.
They're the Sasquatches of humans. In that they exist, but we can never prove it. Because they're identical to all other humans, except they're not really human. That's what makes them gray.
Do they wear face paint?
No, they're naturally gray. It's because they don't get a lot of sun.
Oh, they don't get a lot of sun, so
Yeah,
they're
they don't get a lot
naturally
of sun.
gray.
Because all that dimensional travel, it's bad for the skin. They also get a lot of pimples. They get oily, they get gray, they get what you might call ashen in appearance, or you might even call it sodden with a lack of luster.
Sodden with a lack of luster. My
Yeah.
goodness.
Sodden in its lusterless matte. M-A-T-T-E. Don't be solemn in your lusterless matte. That's not cool. That's not cool. Don't be solemn in your lusterless matte. That's uncool. That's the rule. You got to use something glossy, man. That would be fun in a can. Don't be stuck with that unglossy. That just makes everything look glossy. Thank you, thank you. That was my poem about something. Only 21 days until the meow turns into a piao, huh?
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Congratulations, Oliver.
I find myself actually kind of interested and excited about that. In fact, I took some time to make sure I picked the right ones for, and it's kind of cool. YouTube's pretty smart in how they do things, I guess. And I definitely think Piao is one level above meow.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely is.
In life, yes.
Yeah, in life, in the universe. On God's list of ordinality. God's ultimate ordinality list, in which he ranks everything, even things that don't compare against each other.
Wow.
So, on God's ordinality list, it will tell you which is better, cats or appendicitis. Even though they might not seem to have any comparables, really.
Are these rules overlooked by the Pope before given?
The God may or may not share changes to the rules with the Pope. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't.
Oh, so it's like...
Well, he favors popes that shit in the woods a lot.
I didn't know that.
But a lot of people get it backwards. God wants his popes to shit in the woods and his bears to be Catholic. But people get that wrong all the time. It's because the Holy Spirit's dyslexic, so you can't... He gets mishmashed lots of messages he's conveying. God says, tell that guy over there he needs to milk his cow. His cow's getting sore nipples. And then the message that gets conveyed is, he needs to have a silken plow. So then he goes out and buys a plow that's entirely out of silk. Of course, that's not any good at plowing the earth. And that's the problem when you hand messages to the Holy Ghost and say, here, you deliver this. very low probability the exact message you send is the message that's going to be received.
It's like playing phone.
Well, it's kind of like having Tiffany syndrome.
Do tell.
Well, Tiffany, she doesn't hear. Hi, Melting Zero. She doesn't hear things that she doesn't want to hear. She always hears them as something else. So if you tell Tiffany, no, you can't have that, she'll hear it as, Snow wears a hazmat suit. Oh, snow? You don't wear a hazmat suit in the snow? I said I want it. Well, I'm sorry, you can't have it. She'll just hear it wrong again, Don't talk about my bust habit. You're sexually harassing me. It's not my fault how I clothes, I lost them.
It's true. These are really important things to know.
Until finally the person gives in,
Yeah, they give in.
She got so mad at me today when I wouldn't let her ride that ride on the way out. She said, I want to ride on, I want to go on bus.
Yeah.
I said, well, I'm sorry, Tiffany, we're leaving. I want to go on bus. She just yelled at me.
Yeah. She really got mad. But we were leaving.
Yeah, and I didn't want to. I probably should have done this. I didn't want to pay money for a ticket for my doll to ride on the ride.
Yeah. No.
But I really should have. Because that would be much more worth money than me riding on the ride.
Yes.
Or Rachel.
Yeah.
Or even if we had a little child with us. No, you can't ride, little child. My doll is riding.
We have to make sure the doll stays on, too.
Like, I don't want to spend money for 2 tickets. So it's either you or the doll, and the doll's
It's
right.
the doll.
Tiffany she's pushy. She's pushy. She's also not very nice to me. She calls me that selfish old guy.
She just needs to get to know you better.
What she really needs, from her perspective, is for me to just obey her without questioning her, but she's just not going to get that from me.
No.
Makes her really frustrated.
It does.
Okay, so I'm ready to go to bed now. I'm going to end this live stream. I want to thank you all for being here.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Remember that you are the sunshine of our lives.
Our lives.
That's why I'll always be around. What is Tiffany? What's Tiffany's type? I'm not sure what her type
I don't
is.
know either.
She's a drunk. That's her type. She's a drunken, spoiled, but good-hearted. She's kind of like an ESFJ who's so drunk all the time that she doesn't really have any FE and no NI at all. Her TI is, sometimes she maybe has a little bit of TI. She definitely is driven by her FI. She knows what she wants, what Tiffany wants. But she's also, like, she respects her relationship. Like, she won't let Sasquatch touch her butthole even though he's just wondering why she's butt sunning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hot. Yeah. Hot. Squash cock. You want to be a cock. But it doesn't mean you can touch my butthole.
Yeah, it doesn't. She really puts up her boundaries.
Don't forget to yeet plenty of sneeze. It's
Yeah.
it's good advice. Oh, that's the best advice I've heard in a long time. She's an LMNOP.
Oh, she's an elemental P.
She's just Tiffany, is what she is.
Yeah, she's Tiffany with an I.
It's like she's kind of modeled actually after like there's certain little Mexican boys. If you work in a neighborhood where there's little Mexican boys, they're like little chubby Mexican ESFJ boys, and they oh look at that oh. Like there's this kind of like little boy that exists out in the world that I've seen in classes and stuff, and of course, you know, Tiffany's got that same kind of what's going on over here? I'm here and I'm just bullying through things. So I like that about her.
I do too.
You know, she's always clear on how she feels about things.
She is.
And she uses a lot of little expressions like, I got a tote bag for your britches.
Yeah.
Anyhow, oh, Trouble, you silly kitty, you're dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
You're dreaming a little dream of me.
Oh.
Just like that band sang that song about.
Yeah.
Look at him dreaming. Look at his feet twitching. Do you guys see that? He's dreaming about chasing something around, I guess. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Oh, what a silly kitty he is.
He's so silly.